Hey, what's up everybody? How you doing? It's Robert Anthony. Let's do some panoramas with a drone. This is my Mavic Air2s by DJI. I love this thing. This thing takes the most epic video and photographs ever. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about shooting panoramas with this. And I'm actually going to take you out on the road and we're going to do some stuff in downtown Orlando. Sound like fun? Great. Let's go. All right, I've got my coffee. First, you don't need to see called that. So we're going to take the Mavic Air 2 and we're going to head out and we're going to test its limits. And what I mean when I say we're going to test its limits, we're going to do a panorama in the dark. As a professional photographer, I appreciate so much the Mavic Air 2s in its capacity to shoot not only 4K video, but fully RAW files. Now, I shoot everything in RAW with this in a DNG file. The RAW file obviously has significantly more data. From a color grading standpoint, your blacks are blacker, they're darker, there's more in the shadows. When the computer does a JPEG, or when the computer on the device does a JPEG, it actually compresses a lot of the usable data and it's no longer usable. Well, that creates a lot of issues with regard to editing, particularly if you're going to be editing using a dark scene, like what we're going to do here when we test the limits. I was driving down to downtown Orlando, or actually the International Drive area, the I-Drive area in downtown Orlando. We have a huge Ferris wheel and a needle that sticks up that's a swing thing that goes up 500 feet, and they are lit up at night. And they stay lit all night, early into the morning. If you ever fly into Orlando, you'll be able to see the Orlando Eye. It's such a big Ferris wheel. So we're going to go down, and they're in red, white, and blue right now because it's just after Memorial Day weekend, and it's going to make for, I hope, to be a great panorama, and we're gonna do that together. So without further ado, let's get the drone in the air, and we'll fly around a little bit, and I will show you inside the DJI app first how to capture it, and then toward the end we're gonna put those into Lightroom, and I'm gonna show you using Lightroom, just a fancy tool in Lightroom that makes it a piece of cake to stitch these panoramas together. So let's get over to iDrive and do some flying around. All right, so here we are inside of the DJI Fly app, and we'll go ahead and we'll open it up. Now this is from the video settings. We're going to switch over to the right. You can see if we click on the film strip, that opens up an opportunity to see other things that the device will do. We go to the panorama section, and you'll have varying levels of panorama sections that you can do, and we have to get it set. I always shoot on manual. I never shoot on automatic. So we're dropping the shutter speed here down to bring the lighting up so we can actually see it, and we're actually going to shoot at about a 400 ISO. I feel like that's good. It'll still be plenty noise reduced, and then I always see here, you can see I shoot always in RAW. Now we have the sphere, the 180, the wide angle, and the vertical. I like to do the wide angle and the 180. So we're going to shoot a wide angle first here, and we're going to go ahead and let it run through its wide angle, and it will shoot a total of 9 photographs as it's going through its shooting. When it's done, you'll see that it'll circle to the right there. It's completing the photograph. It will actually stitch together on its own a JPEG, but we're actually going to use those RAW files later in Lightroom. And then we'll do a 180 here. The 180 is going to shoot a total of 21 photos total. This makes a much wider perspective from the standpoint of the actual panorama. It often takes in much more of the sky. So this is good for, say, for example, sunrises and sunsets. I often will use this over mountain ranges and such. I've used this at the Orlando skyline over Lake Eola recently to capture the sunrise over the buildings, and it was just spectacular. It really was. So we're coming into the end of the shooting here, and you can see over to the right, it gives you a percentage, and we're at 50%, and that has now run the process on both of those. So at this point, we can go ahead and we can begin to move those files over into Lightroom. And I will show you here that I did do another set to bring it in just a little bit closer, get that wheel into the center is what I wanted to do of the photograph. Moved in a little bit closer, knowing that it angles down and shoots toward the ground and shoots up. We're at about 340, 335 feet in the air. Really wanted this to be centered with that needle just hitting the top of the frame there. We're going to do both. We'll do the wide angle first, which will be the 9 shots. And you can see we're at 335 feet in the air to shoot this. And you'll notice how it shoots down as well as across the plane of the horizon, and then up above the horizon. It'll navigate over and it will shoot 3 photos over here. And then it will compile them and it will finish them off. We will also let it do a wide, the 180 as well. But we don't need to let you sit and watch that. And then that's how it works. Let's go over and get those into Lightroom, and we'll do some editing to finish off this particular series of shots. All right, so let's go ahead and do some screen recording here and see what we can do for showing you how this works in my workflow. All right, I'll show you what I'm talking about with the way that the Mavic Air2s sorts these out. Now, these are not on the Air2s. At this point, they are on my hard drive, but you'll see from this morning, we've got folders labeled. Now, the Air2s will label them just like this, like what you're seeing here right now, with these 101 numbers and then the 686. Each of those is a set of panoramas that it took. So this morning, when I transferred these in off of my SD card from the Mavic Air2s and brought them over to my computer, it did bring them over, and you can see I relabeled the folders for the purposes of this video. When it's automatic, when you're using the automatic settings on the Air2s, they will go into an individual folder. This is incredibly handy. A number of these down here are from when I was shooting using a manual method for making the panorama, trying to do the same thing as what the camera will do in the automatic function. The problem being that takes infinitely longer. You got to gimbal that camera up, gimbal it down, left, right. You got to make sure that you're getting enough of a cross section, about a 50% overlap. It really takes a lot of time. Using the automatic panorama function in the drone, shooting the DNGs or the raw files, we'll put them into these folders. As you can see here, this is our DNGs that you can see here. These are in Lightroom now. And if we go back here, you'll see here's the 21 shots for the even wider view. They're all nicely organized per shot. And the reason that this is important, let's go ahead and go over to Lightroom. The reason that this is important is because if they're not sorted out into panoramas, you'll see this is the folder here in Lightroom that says Panorama, right? But you'll notice here, it has every photo that we've shot, including those Orlando eyes. These are all panorama stitches that are put together. This is what it would look like if they weren't foldered out inside of the drone after the drone shot. It would look like this when you bring it over, and trying to figure out which of these are part of which panorama is an absolute nightmare. But what you can see here is if we have them in Lightroom, they've been imported in Lightroom, and I have them in a nice folder here called Panoramas for Orlando. Okay, these are all panoramas that I've shot. We'll go to Orlando Eye 1. Okay, there's the first series, Orlando Eye 2. There's the super wide series, Orlando Eye 3. This is where we got a little bit closer. So let me show you how this works. Okay, these are all of the raw files, the DNG files. We go here, and then we hit the shift, and we select, and that selects all of these photos. We come up here in Lightroom to where it says Photo. We go Photo Merge, and then we go Panorama, just like that. it's going to do a preview, and you can see very quickly put them all together. Now I'm using auto crop because if you don't, this is what it does. So I crop it in automatically, and then I let Lightroom do the auto settings. It does a pretty darn good job. You can also use this boundary warp if you'd like. This will make it, correct it, so it's rounding the Earth horizon there. We don't need to do that on this particular photo. I am very content with it maybe being right there. I like that. So we're going to hit merge. Need the Jeopardy song, really, to make this merge happen. You know, while it's happening. So it's merging them together. All right. So you can see here is our final product in Lightroom. This is our final product. So if we go over here to develop, we've got it developed here. And we can pluck around with this a little bit. As far as the colors go, we'll warm it up just a little. And I'm pretty satisfied with everything that it's done here. I'm going to lift the whites a little bit. I'm going to drop the blacks down a little bit. It really lifted the shadows. You can bring them down if you want. You can bring them way up. I'm going to keep it right about where it was at. I always like to add a little clarity and a little texture, depending on the situation. And I always like to boost the saturation a little bit. I'm a little more on the saturated side. I love the colors. I'm going to pull the sharpening down because I think Lightroom automatically over sharpens, quite frankly. And then I'm going to put a little vignette around it. Just a little. There. So there's our panorama at the wide angle setting. Isn't that gorgeous? And then the way we get it into, you know, put it on the website or to put it in the video, I just do File and I export it as a JPEG. That's what you have to do. You have to export it as a JPEG. So real quick, let's go back here. And let's try this big wide one. Why don't we try that? See if this works for us. Here we go. Hit Shift, select all of these. Photo, Photo Merge, Panorama. Here we go. And it worked. Isn't that awesome? We're going to warp this a little bit. Bring that out. You can see. All right, here goes the merge. We'll be right back. So here we are. It was quite the project for Lightroom. It took it a while. So you can see the majority of iDrive here, and you can see downtown how it's lighting up the skyline there. So we're going to again go into develop a little bit. We're going to make some changes. Not many, but we'll make a few. Change the temperature a little bit. I'm pretty satisfied with everything. I'm going to lift the whites a little bit, pull the blacks down a little bit. Again, I'm going to add some clarity, dehaze it just a little bit in this case, and then saturate it up a little bit. And that's your 180 degree wide angle. Immediately behind us is the Lockheed Martin plant, top secret. Can't fly the drone there. But there you go. You can crop this if you wanted to. If you wanted to crop it in, you most certainly could. But we're going to export those out and show you the finished product. All right, so that's going to about do it for our lesson in using the DJI product for a panorama. Let me show you the two final products here on the screen. You can see from an automatic standpoint, this machine does a phenomenal job. Lightroom is quite powerful. There are many other tools that you can use for stitching together panoramas. I am not familiar with most of them. I am primarily an Adobe user, and I love Lightroom. I love the power of Lightroom. It provides me so much joy. So I am challenging you, if you have one of these devices, you've got this Mavic Mini or even a Mavic Air2s, get out there and start shooting. It is just so much fun. You know, it's interesting as we close this out. I have been frustrated because I've not really had an opportunity to travel, and it doesn't look like I will be able to get out into the wilderness this year. But I was telling a friend of mine that, you know, headed downtown Orlando at 4:30, 4:30 in the morning. The city does such just a phenomenal job with keeping the downtown area up. It's like its own adventure down there. The skyline is lit so beautifully. The Amway Center is stunning. And just watching the sun come up over Lake Eola it's just surreal. It's quiet and calm and peaceful. It's almost like being in the mountains and hiking, I have to say. So, I guess that just demonstrates you can always find something to appreciate about right where you're at. And I found that to be true over the last, I'd say, month. I've been driving to downtown Orlando frequently at 4 in the morning to get, some of these videos and some of these photographs. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I really hope that it was helpful to you as you're trying to hone your photography skills. And I've really enjoyed making it and sharing it with you. So I'd love it if you could like the video. If you would subscribe, that would be really great. I would love you as a subscriber. And make sure when you subscribe, you hit that bell notification so you know when videos release. Although it could be argued, YouTube does not do a very good job of notifying you. So you almost have to check it out. If you come over to my website and you sign up on my blog at raphotog.com/blog, I post every time I make a new video. You'll get a quick email from me saying, hey, this video posted, or hey, here's a little bit of a trick on how to use your camera. Here's a little trick on how to use your drone. If you do come over to my website, again, it's raphotog.com. And then if you want to get straight to the blog, /blog, you'll be updated every time I make a post about anything photography speaking, particularly as I've really started to latch on to this drone stuff. I will be able to share with you what I'm learning, what I'm seeing, and it is just, it really is literally taking my photography to an entirely new height, an entirely new level. Hey, I'm glad you're part of this family. I love having you around. I'm Rob, and I will see you in the next one. Rob out.